And then he says, وَكَذَلِكَ تَخْلِيلُ الْأَصَابِعِ. Also, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do تَخْلِيلُ الْأَصَابِعِ. He used to do this. So when you wash your hands, to do that is the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But in one case, it becomes mandatory. Okay? When does it become mandatory? If you can't get the water in between your fingers or your toes. Doing takhleel, you can also do it in between your toes. This is also the sunnah, not just your hands, but you can also put it between your toes. It becomes mandatory. Let's just say, for example, if you have chubby toes and the flesh is preventing the water reaching in between your toes. In that case, it becomes a must. A qaida, a principle that we learn in usul al-fiqh is إذا كان الواجب لا يتم إلا به فهو واجب. If you can't fulfill an act that is mandatory except by doing something, then that something becomes wajib as well. And that something becomes wajib as well. Let me give you guys an easier example. Going to the masjid, it's an obligation, right? Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded a blind man to answer the call of prayer. Is it possible for me to go to the masjid without walking there? I can't. So getting to the masjid would become wajib because I can't fulfill the obligation of praying in the masjid except by walking there or by taking a car. Even though in within itself walking to the masjid or taking a car to the masjid is not something that is mandatory. But I can't fulfill the obligation of praying in the masjid except by walking there. So that becomes mandatory as well. So we know, my brothers and my sisters, that washing the feet is an obligation. And we have to make sure that every part of that foot or whatever else that we have been told to wash is fully washed and that the water flows on that part of the body. Even, my brothers and my sisters, if there is the size of a nail on your foot that hasn't been washed, that will render the washing of the feet to be what? Invalid. And if you continue like that and you finish your wudu becomes invalid. And if you prayed like that, that will render your wudu being invalid as well. Sorry, your salah being invalid as well. And you would have to go and redo everything again. I hope that is clear, my brothers and my sisters. Okay? We have the hadith of Anas Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, رأى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رجلا وفي قدمه مثل الظفر لم يصبه الماء فقال ارجع فأحسن وضوءك. Narrated by Abu Dawud. Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he saw a man. Okay? And on his feet was the size of a nail that wasn't washed. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told him to go back and do his wudu again properly. In another narration we are told وعلى قدمه قدر الدرهم لم يصبه الماء. That on his feet was the size of a coin that wasn't washed. فأمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعيد الوضوء والصلاة. He commanded him to repeat his wudu and likewise the salah. Yes, my brothers and my sisters, even if it is a little bit, you would have to make sure that the water reaches every part. So going back to what I was saying earlier, if one has chubby feet and the only way that he's going to get the water in between his toes is by using his fingers, then him doing that becomes mandatory as well. Even though in itself, if the water can reach it, you doing this in between your toes is not something that is mandatory.